What's going on YouTube? It's your boy Darian, the Bowtie Fragrance Guy. On this channel, we talk about fragrances and fashion. So if you rock with your boy, I'm gonna have you looking good and smelling absolutely amazing. So if that sounds interesting to you, why don't you go ahead and click the subscribe button and take another quick second, if you don't mind, to hit the bell icon as well to make sure you get notified every time I upload new content on the channel. So guys, on today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys, in my opinion, the top 10 inexpensive, cheap, whatever you want to call them, designer fragrances of all time. Now, I'm not saying these are the only great ones out there, but these are 10 of my favorite cheap, inexpensive fragrances that I found for under that $50 price point. Listen guys, there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of fragrances out there, but I have not had the chance to put my nose on all of them, and I never will. But of the ones that I have put my nose on, these are 10 of the best in my opinion. So this is gonna be a fun list. So if you want to see what I chose, go ahead and stick around. Keep it locked right here. We'll be right back. All right guys, we're back. Thank you so much for keeping it locked in. Let's go ahead and jump right into this video. The first one is very familiar and highly, I think, thought of and considered as a great, inexpensive or cheapy, whatever you want to call it, fragrance from the house of Nautica. And of course, this is called Nautica Voyage. Nautica Voyage. And I had to put this one on the list, although this one is well known and I think highly regarded as a great, cheap, inexpensive fragrance. It's just one of the best to me, man. This thing is so easy to wear in the spring and summertime. And it's just crazy to me that this only costs, in most cases, $12, $15. That's what you're gonna find this for in most places. I think this is one of the highest selling fragrances on Amazon and places like that. So a lot of people like this fragrance because it doesn't cost a lot, of course. That's what the fragrances on this list are about. But it just smells so doggone freaking good. I mean, that green apple in here, you have some lotus, mimosa, a little bit of cedarwood on the dry down, just a nice citrusy, kind of slightly salty, aquatic kind of fragrance that you're gonna find from the house of Nautica. And again, it costs $12. So coming in at the 10th spot on this list from the house of Nautica, this one is called Nautica Voyage. All right, coming in at the 9th spot on this list, this fragrance was one of the fragrances that really I was introduced to early in my fragrance journey. Before I really became a collector, I ran through a couple bottles of this stuff, and I'm glad to have it in my collection from the house of Sean John. This is called Unforgivable. Sean John Unforgivable. Now, when I first had a bottle of this, I had no idea what Millésime Imperial from Creed was. And I, of course, quite naturally, had never put my nose on it, but that's what this really is. It reminds me a lot of Millésime Imperial from Creed. Not of course as natural smelling, but it smells a lot like it. And I was really drawn to that kind of fresh citrus kind of base fragrance that you get from Millésime Imperial. That's what that really is about. It's that salty, citrusy, oceanic kind of feel that you get from that. You get the same thing out of this bottle right here. So one of the best cheap fragrances of all time, in my opinion, starting from a long time ago when I used to pick this thing up, is from the house of Sean John, and this is called Sean John Unforgivable. All right, coming in at the 8th spot on this list, I had to include this fragrance on this list. It's just so good for the price. It's so good for the price, and this one comes from the house of Lacoste, and this is Lacoste L1212 White or L1212 Blanc. You will see different names for this fragrance, but the one in the white bottle. And man, this is just beautiful. When you talk about a beautiful, easy to wear fragrance that has that, well, the star player of this to me is that the mid of this fragrance with the florals. You have a nice ylang-ylang and tuberose in this fragrance. And then on the base, you have just a slight hint of leather in this. And I think there's cedarwood maybe as well, but man, and again, what makes these fragrances so great that on this list, of course, so we're talking about what you get for the price. and I had to put this one on the list. A very, very quality and good representation of a nice floral fragrance that guys can wear. It's definitely unisex, but guys can definitely wear this stuff. And again, that's why I made the list. It's great quality for this price. From the house of Lacoste, this is Lacoste L1212, Blanc or White. All right, coming in at the 7th spot on this list, I want to do this one quick because you know it was on there. I couldn't leave it off just because a lot of people talked about it. I had to put it on here, man. Bentley Intense for Men. Bentley Intense for Men. This would not be a true list if I left this off just because so many people regard this as a great, inexpensive fragrance, because it really, really is, man. It's so quality. It performs great, and definitely for this genre of fragrance, it has nice or high quality, I would say, for what you're gonna pay for this fragrance, because this is one, of course, you can find for under $35 in most places, and it has a nice kind of incense and patchouli kind of vibe going on in here. I think leather may be in this one as well. It does not smell exactly like Tuxedo, which I heard may be discontinued, but it kind of puts me in the mindset of Tuxedo from YSL's private line. And it is quality for the price. It is one of the best inexpensive designer fragrances of all time. From the house of Bentley, this is Bentley Intense for Men. All right, guys, before I go to the next one, I almost forgot there are 3 quick honorable mentions. Not gonna talk about notes or anything like that, but I had to include these. Of course, the OG Davidoff Cool Water. There's not many people that have put a fragrance on their body that have not heard about this one, but of course, smells a lot like Green Irish Tweed. I wanted to mention that. Can't discount what that has been to the fragrance world as a whole. This one right here from Perry Ellis, Black Vanilla Oud Absolute. It doesn't get as much talk as it used to, but it was, when it came out, it really took the fragrance world by storm because it was just really a nice vanilla fragrance for the price. And you know, the house of Perry Ellis doesn't get much talk at all in the fragrance community, but this one was one that deserved it. Black Vanilla Absolute. And the last honorable mention goes to this one, Perry Ellis again. This is Perry Ellis 360 White. Now, a lot of people regard the red as one of the best of all time, and I won't argue that point, but I just like this one a little bit better than the red. Again, that one does smell like Acqu Di Gio, but this one has a nice kind of tonka bean vanilla sweetness on the base that I love. Gives a little bit of warmth and sweetness too, and a real kind of citrus aquatic kind of DNA. You know, it's similar to the red, but this one has that sweetness on the base, and I love this one. This is 360 White. All right, guys, coming in at the 6th spot on this list, I've talked about this fragrance a lot over the past 2 months, and I will continue to talk about this fragrance. It has moved into one of the top 10 cheap designer fragrances of all time to me. It's quality through and through. I love the scent DNA. Salvatore Ferragamo Acqua Essenziale Blue. Man, I love this stuff because I'm a huge fan of Dylan Blue, but it smells like it, but there's something a little bit different about this one to me. Not quite sure what it is. I haven't been able to put my finger on it yet. I will do a side-by-side comparison. That way I can really, you know, differentiate what's different between those 2 fragrances. But man, this stuff is just good to me, man. It is really, really good. It has ambroxan in it, bergamot. It was done by Alberto Marias, and you know, one of the a very well-known master perfumer. So that's one of the things about it, man. A lot of these inexpensive fragrances, it's just because a lot of times the house that it comes from, but that doesn't mean that they're not quality. And this is a very high quality designer fragrance. That's why I made the list, man. So coming in at the 6th spot on this list from the house of Salvatore Ferragamo, this is Acqua Essenziale Blue. All right, coming in at the 5th spot, one of my favorite summer fragrances of all time. This is Versace Man Eau Fraiche. Versace Man Eau Fraiche. Now, from the house of Versace, if someone had put Versace Pour Homme on this list, I'm not going to argue that point. I like that one as well. But this one is, I'm just a little bit more of a fan of. It has a little bit of spicy kick to this one that I really just enjoy. I douse myself in this stuff in the summertime. I love it. I'm always going to have it in my collection. It's definitely one of the best inexpensive designer fragrances of all time, in my opinion, from the house of Versace. This is Versace Man Eau Fraiche. Can we cue up the sad music, please? Can we get some sad music? Sad music cued. It was a sad day in the fragrance community when it was announced that this fragrance will be discontinued. I've been buying backup bottles and I will continue to do so because I need to have this in my collection for the rest of my life. Coming in at the 4th spot of the top inexpensive cheap designer fragrances of all time is from the house of Montblanc, and this is Individuel. Montblanc Individuel. You guys know how much of a fan I am of Original Santal, and obviously this one came out first. But man, this stuff is just so good. It's so good, and it was hyped up, but in my opinion, it deserved the hype. This bottle was almost gone, and I was stopped wearing it for a while because I was trying to hang on to it, but then I just started buying backup bottles, so now I'm good to go. But man, I love this fragrance right here. It's just so fresh and clean, with just the right amount of sweetness that I like. It's coming from stuff like vanilla, in this sandalwood, juniper berries, cinnamon, lavender. I love this fragrance from the house of Montblanc. Definitely in my top 10 cheap designer fragrances of all time. And that's why it made the 4th spot on this list. All right, guys, coming in at the 3rd spot on this list, I absolutely adore this fragrance, man. I heard it was discontinued, but as of late, it's been popping back up. So if you have not gotten your nose on this and gotten a bottle, if you like a nice vanilla fragrance, a nice vanilla fragrance, get your nose on this from the house of Mercedes. This is Mercedes-benz Black. Mercedes-benz Black. Listen, this is a beautiful vanilla fragrance. The first time I smelled this fragrance, I did not purchase it because I was at one of those fragrance stores. Have you ever been to like an outlet mall and you go to one of those fragrance stores that have the super overpriced, inexpensive cologne fragrances? Like, I can't even think of the name of these fragrances, but it won't be Dior Sauvage. It'll be like Dior Savage or something like that. And they have these fragrances that like Ice City Blue and all this kind of stuff that kind of smell like Invictus. The way they get you with those fragrances in those stores is they smell very close to a very popular fragrance. But if you stay in that store for more than 15 minutes, you're going to notice when you go back to your hand, that fragrance is gone. So it's very, very cheap fragrances in these fragrance stores at these outlet malls. And they'll do like one fragrance for $89. If you buy one, you get one half off. But again, if you buy one of those really cheap fragrances, you're severely overpaying. But anyway, I smelled this fragrance at first in one of those stores and I did not want to buy it, but it caught my attention. And I've been meaning to get a bottle of this stuff. I'm so glad that I have it in my collection, man. This is a beautiful vanilla scent. I will tell you what this reminds me a lot of. If you've ever put your nose on Carner Barcelona El Born, beautiful, nutty, kind of creamy vanilla fragrance, that's exactly what this fragrance reminds me of. One of my favorite designer fragrances, cheap designer fragrances of all time, from the house of Mercedes-Benz. This is Mercedes-Benz Black. All right, coming in at this number 2 spot, this fragrance needs no introduction. Not even gonna talk a lot about it, but definitely it's a designer fragrance because it's a clone from the house of Armaf. This is Club de Nuit Intense Man. The best of vintage cologne out there on the market. This is the closest thing to it. You put your nose to this, you smell Acqu Di Gio. This is it. And it costs 27 bucks. Need I say more? Performs, projects, gets compliments from the house of Armaf. Of course, this is the number 2 fragrance for me, Club de Nuit Intense Man. Coming in at the number 1 spot, it's the number 1 spot because it's my baby. I love this stuff from the house of Burberry, and this is Burberry Touch. Burberry Touch. Violet leaves is the main note in this fragrance. It's floral with spices. It just smells so freaking fantastic. This is the number 1 cheap designer fragrance, in my opinion, of all time. For my personal taste, this is my pick for number 1. This thing has been in rack stores forever. And for it to be in a rack store, I think it holds quality. For it to be a fragrance that you find so often in the rack stores and things of that nature, it definitely falls in that cheap or inexpensive category. But it doesn't smell cheap and inexpensive. This is a great quality fragrance. Kind of underrated in my humble opinion, man. But if you never put your nose on this and you want a quality, inexpensive designer fragrance, I highly recommend this one right here from the house of Burberry. This is called Burberry Touch. All right, guys, that's it. That's my time. I hope you enjoyed this list of 10 of the top cheap, inexpensive designer fragrances of all time. What are some of your favorite cheap, inexpensive designer fragrances of all time? What are some fragrances that you would have put on this list? Comment down below. I would love to hear from you down in the comments. And as always, I appreciate your time and attention to this video because, of course, I know you didn't have to watch what you did. I appreciate that. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and go ahead and share this video out to some other folks that you think could use this information or find me entertaining, because I'm your guy, Darian, the Bowtie Fragrance Guy. I love to look good, and of course, I love to smell amazing. So until next time, guys, keep looking good, keep smelling even better. I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.